How are you?
Just fine. We've had a long day yesterday with the president, and
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, we appreciate you giving us some time too,
Oh,
because
no,
I know you're busy.
Yeah, but haven't you're here? Oh, I spend time with a lot of other people. It was a lot more fun.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I wanted to start off when I talked with President Obama yesterday and asked him about entitlement reform. He said, and I'm loosely quoting, "Social Security is not the country's big problem. We have to tweak it a little, but we basically can finance that well into the future." Your response?
Well, that's like saying that I'm not going to buy a smoke alarm because the house isn't going to burn down until 3 years from now. There's a big problem. And I think it's important for leaders here in Washington, both Democrats and Republicans, to begin to lay out for the American people the dire consequences of doing nothing. Now, doing nothing will bankrupt our country, but it will also mean that these important programs will not be around for those that are coming down the pike. And so I think it's important that we begin to lay out the problem, begin to talk about an array of solutions, and deal with this like adults.
With all the entitlements.
All of them.
Yeah. President Obama also told me his budget freezes spending for 5 years, and he says what that does is solve the short-term problem by saying we're not going to spend any more money than we're taking in. Is that correct?
Well, I don't believe that is correct. If you look at the president's budget, at no time over the next 10 or 20 years does the amount of money coming in pay for the government in any year. And secondly, I would point out that by freezing spending at 010 levels, we're locking in all of the bailout money, the stimulus money, it all gets locked in. So we're freezing a budget at an extremely high rate. That's why you'll see the House this week moves to cut spending by over $100 billion. We're going to continue to work with our Senate colleagues to have real spending cuts now.
Do you believe you're having bipartisan cooperation?
Right now on the House floor, the House is working its will in a bipartisan way. And while most of my Democrat colleagues think that these cuts are too much, the fact is they're working together, they're offering amendments, and participating in the debate. And I'm hopeful that we'll get the same kind of bipartisan cooperation in the Senate.
You've tried to open up the process, right? So everybody can have input. How's that working?
Well, this has been a real experiment this week. We're probably going to consider over 600 amendments on the floor of the House. But I do think that allowing all members to participate, both Democrats and Republicans, and allowing the House to work its will means that the House is going to produce a better product. It'll help drive work back into committees. It'll help begin to melt down the partisan divide that we've had in this building for quite some time. And fixing the institution is critically important to the long-term success of addressing the critical problems that our nation faces. If you don't have an institution that works, I don't know how the institution can work together to solve these big problems.
How long is it going to take you to resolve the continuing resolution?
It's going to be late tonight, early tomorrow morning, longer, I don't know. But I am committed to allowing the House to do its work together. That means sometimes it's going to take longer.
I wanted to ask you about an important issue for the tri-state. The House voted to kill GE's backup jet fighter engine. How disappointed were you in that?
Well, I am committed to the House working its will. And the House worked its will yesterday. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it, but the House spoke. I think the second engine for the F-35 is a very good investment on the part of the United States. And most importantly, I think it will save money over the first 10 years that we're in operation. This is going to go to the Senate now, and we're going to continue to work on this.
In a case like this, do you feel a conflict between your job as the congressman from Westchester and your job as the Speaker of the House?
No, I'm a big believer that the second engine for the F-35 is the right thing for the country. But you know, we've got 87 new Republican members. We've got 8 new Democrat members. A lot of these members have never dealt with this issue. And they made decisions yesterday to cut. This was one of the cuts. But like I said, I wasn't real happy about it.
Yeah. A lot of your new members, you have a number of Tea Party members. How challenging is it for you as the Speaker to keep your Republican majority together?
Well, I don't really have any, quote, Tea Party members.
Okay.
They were all elected as Republicans. All of us had to run in the last election, all 435 House members, and all of us got a chance to listen to what the American people had to say. Those members who were strongly supported by the Tea Party heard the same thing I heard. They want us to cut spending. They want us to create an environment to get jobs moving again. And those are the 2 big mantras you'll see us follow over the course of this year.
Let's see. We also took questions from viewers for the president, and I wanted to see what you thought about this one question. Tony Ross is a man who has a small trucking company in the tri-state. He has 7 employees. He just started his business in 2009, but he says his health care rates just went up 40%. And his question for the president was, he thought health care reform was supposed to lower his costs, so what happened? And he also said, how is he supposed to grow his business with these kinds of costs? I wanted to know what your thoughts were.
It was one of the arguments that we made when they were considering Obamacare here in the Congress. And that while the president claims it would lower health premium cost, we were convinced that it was going to raise costs. And it has raised insurance premiums all over the country. And we're not even hardly into this new law that I think will ruin the best health care delivery system in the country, around the world. It'll bankrupt our country. And it's one of the big impediments to creating jobs in America. When you raise the cost of hiring someone, you're going to get less of them. And this health care cost is standing in the way of a lot of small employers and their willingness to hire someone else.
It is the 2-year anniversary of the signing of the stimulus, and you say it's been a failure. You want to expand on that?
The president and his people said that when we sign the stimulus bill, unemployment will not exceed 8%. Well, it's at 9%, and if you look at the real unemployment rate, it's probably closer to 18%. The president said, when I sign this bill, it will create jobs immediately. It has not. There's been $900 billion or $800 billion of a Washington spending binge that's done nothing to create real jobs in our country.
What do you think is the answer?
I always believed and told the president before he signed this bill that if we allowed American families and small businesses to keep more of what they earn, that it was the best engine for economic growth that we could provide. They didn't want to go down that path, even though all the numbers that we had crunched made it pretty clear that it would have done more for our economy than growing the size of government, which is really all the $800 billion has done.
Paul Ryan, the budget chairman, says he is ready to tackle entitlements, and you say you're ready. Who's going first on this? When does this happen?
Well, that's the big question. I had dinner with the president's chief of staff last night to talk about that very question, and they didn't get an answer. Listen, the president is elected to lead, not just to occupy the White House. And when the president submitted his budget, it's not only going to ruin job creation in America because it spends too much, borrows too much, and taxes too much. Right? He didn't even deal with the entitlement question. And it's all because nobody wants to touch the third rail of American politics. Entitlement spending, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We have to deal with it. The American people want us to deal with it. And I pushed the White House again last night. Let's start the conversation, and let's do it together.
But you want to do it together. Would the Republicans want to go first?
if the president won't lead, we will.
Okay. Lighter question.
That's always dangerous.
Oh, no. No, I understand you're a big Facebook user.
I am.
Uh-huh.
I've got lots of friends, lots of fans, a number of different Facebook pages, but it's a way for me to find out what people are really thinking about every day. So several times a day, I'll roll through my Facebook page to see what people are talking about and see what they've got to tell me. And they've all got advice for me.
I'm sure they do.
Always.
Do you find that the social media have changed the political process?
Digital media has changed how we communicate with each other. If you look at what happened in Egypt, could never have happened without digital media. Because whether it's Twitter, Facebook, that's where the organizing was done, that's where the instructions were coming from. I've always used the example of the Scott Brown election 2 years ago or a year ago in Massachusetts. Scott Brown couldn't have gotten elected senator in Ted Kennedy's old Senate seat had it not been for social media. That's where I watched it all happen, and had nothing to do with his campaign. These were just ordinary citizens who organized themselves and helped somebody get elected. In terms of the way I communicate and others in public service communicate today, these digital media outlets are critically important for telling people what we're doing, why we're doing it, what we hope the benefit will be as a result. But it's an effective way to communicate.
It's a really interesting development, I think. Yeah. We don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you've got a busy day, so, and somebody's like telling me to wrap it up.
I got you. Nice to see you.